This is Frankie Lynch, Saturn Girl. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and comment below. I want to know what you think, and it helps out with the algorithm. But we're going to talk about a fun little aspect today that perfects in just a few days. So Mercury in Gemini will perfect a square to Saturn in Pisces on June 15th. Like I said, it's a quick transit, but we do see important occurrences happen under it. Well, what is Mercury? He's how we think, speak, and express. He's business, messages, news, and announcements. But he's also deception, scheming, or thieving. My precious. What is Saturn? Delays, restrictions, restraints. He rules incarceration and isolation. In modern astrology, we sort of think of him as consistency and effort and discipline. What is a square? It's a malefic aspect, but it's the lesser malefic aspect. It's in the nature of Mars. These things are quicker conflicts. I think of them as crashing into each other like a perpendicular crash, 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 crashy, crash. Anyway, that's how I think about it. So, what do these mean together? We'll see difficult news with long-term implications. We'll see some examples. Delays in announcements or results. We could see restricting certain speech. News about incarceration or indictments. On a personal level, you could be having writer's block or, creative barriers. I also think about creative struggles between, say, artists and producers, and then the businessmen who exploit them. I'm thinking like the Writers Guild strike or something like that. Well, there are also good things that can manifest from this. You see, Saturn can also squash Mercury's deception. It's like, squash, Mercury, squash, 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 Mercury, squash. Or I crush your head. I crush your head. I crush your head. And you would see kids in the hall. Anyway, I'm wasting time. I'm just making myself laugh. I crush your head. Sorry. Okay, historical events associated with this. Okay, May 1st of 2019, Julian Assange is sentenced to 50 weeks in jail. For what? Apparently skipping bail. Skipping bail? Oh, when he was taking refuge or asylum in Ecuador's embassy. Oh. So, it's so funny how we treat the people who expose power. Now, there's plenty of legitimate criticisms to make of Julian Assange. But I seriously doubt that's why powerful people were after him. They were probably after him because he was after that, or, exposing things. Whistleblowing. So, and the next day, May 2nd that same year, Facebook banned far-right personalities, Alex Jones and Milo Yiannopoulos, for hate speech. We won't talk about some of the awful things they both say, but suffice it to say, right? Restrictions of speech. The Julian Assange thing, incarceration, right? Now, another example was November 9th of last year, which was the day of the midterm elections. And you may remember a delay with those. Well, the delay was the news to which party would be controlling the Senate was delayed. And that was due to a very hotly contested Senate race in Georgia between Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. So there were some awful things that came out about Herschel Walker's personal conduct, but we won't go into that. Suffice it to say that this was a hotly contested race, and it was very close. But Warnock eventually won, right? It was in December. But you see how the news was delayed. When we all heard there was because the whole country was interested in how this would play out. So everyone was just like, we gotta wait for the finale till December? Anyway. Well, what does this mean for us? Delays in important news, perhaps. I mean, today was arraignment day, but, you know, I don't think there were any big delays. You can think of this whole Saturnian thing, right? I talked about Saturn sort of squashing mercurial deception. I mean, the former president, Trump, is a Gemini. You could see him pretty well embodied in the Mercury thing. And the establishment, the legal system, is pretty Saturnian. And you could see them as bringing a certain amount of pressure down. I'm just describing this for the sake of the aspect. The police today were preparing for, they were preparing for not nice things, but nothing really happened. Well, also the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court surprisingly struck down a gerrymandering plan by the Alabama GOP, which was a naked, blatant, and obvious attempt to disenfranchise black voters. I mean, blatantly obvious. So the Supreme Court upheld certain parts of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 in order to essentially overrule this or strike this whole attempt down. So, also high-profile people being incarcerated. I mean, I include indictments and stuff on that. We talked about restricting hate speech, so maybe we'll see things like that. I know some folks have been banned from YouTube for hate speech. We won't talk about them personally, but, Oh! Difficult news with long-term implications. I said we're going to talk about some examples, didn't I? Here's a couple. Well, it could be news regarding the economy, which is already sort of... And long-term events like climate change. For example, dead fish. Scores of dead fish, tens of thousands, washed up on Texas shores along the coast. And the reason why is because the water temperature was warming. Warmer water carries less oxygen. These fish basically suffocated to death in the water. They were oxygen starved and deprived. We're going to see more mass die-offs as things progress. On that same token, there was a climate lawsuit filed by young people in Montana, ages 5 to 22. And they're claiming the state of Montana has taken away their rights by allowing all sorts of dangerous fossil fuel emissions to continue. They're making a pretty good case, and this is a harbinger or an indication of things to come with Gen Z, the Pluto-Sag generation, and my daughter's generation, the Pluto-Capricorn generation. They will challenge power structures and governance. We're going to see major upheavals over the next 5 to 10 years. It's just what happens. Well, Pluto is in Aquarius. And Uranus re-enters Gemini. But that's a whole nother video. So what does this mean for you personally? Okay. Well, it can indicate slow thinking. Sometimes a lack of inspiration or creativity. You may feel dull or bored. Maybe you don't want to be active. It could feel like a struggle to get things done. Maybe you're not really talkative, you're quiet. Leave me alone. You'll probably have very little patience. and little patience for BS, or listening to people like me who are verbose and add a lot of extra words to simple things. The best thing to do here is to make lists for what you need to do, because you're going to be adverse to doing those things. So keep the lists, but evenly space the tasks out so you're not getting overwhelmed. Saturn's about consistency and regularity. Mercury's about activity. So we're adding regularity and structure to our activity, because Gemini otherwise is like, let's just do things. For Gemini, busy hands are the devil's playthings. I mean, so are idle hands, but busy hands. Because if we're busy, we're up to no good. Anyway, it's okay to be quiet and keep to yourself for a few days. If people get all butt hurt, that's their problem. Just be honest and say, I'm in a mood. I'm in my feels. Like, I can't deal with you right now. It's a lack of patience is what it is. So, I mean, I hope some of that stuff is interesting and useful to you. The whole lesson to me with transits like this it's okay to tell people no. It's okay to, I hate saying put things off, because I'll do that infinitely if I don't hold myself to task. But to take mercy on yourself, because you know you're getting overwhelmed. And we can't eat an elephant whole. We have to take little bites at a time. I mean, why would we be eating elephants anyway? But you see what I'm saying? I mean, let's imagine we're eating the world's biggest burrito. You can't just sit down and eat the world's biggest burrito. You got to sit down with your homies and take little bits at a time over a long-ass period of time. Well, these are important lessons for us, because we get burned out on a spiritual path or practice if we try too hard. And like the tortoise and the hare, if we rush ahead, we burn out and we miss things. It's very important that you don't miss a thing on the path. Because I don't want to miss a thing. I don't want to close my eyes. Don't want to something, because I miss you, babe. And I don't want to miss a thing. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope you liked it. Remember, I do wonderful readings. Check my information in the description below. I love you very much. And have a wonderful whatever you're having.